About half a year after its release now, I finally tried the new Harman Phoenix 200 film. I wasn't amongst the people who got sent rolls upon initial launch, but I was given a roll of Phoenix by my friend Darren at one point, and I used it while testing out a lens that I was doing a review for on the channel. So I thought this would be a good chance to bring you another one roll review. So thanks for joining and welcome if you're new here. My name's Hashim. So as mentioned, I shot the roll as part of a test I was doing on this little lens, which is a Thypolk Eureka. It's a Leica M mount lens. So I shot the roll on my Leica MA, and it was during the late autumn, sort of early winter period here in Melbourne. So we rented this van and we camped out in it for a couple of days, and it made the perfect opportunity to shoot this film out and about with some nice colors, as you're seeing in some of the footage right now. And rewinding back to when I first saw this film launch and all the reviews that all the other YouTubers and photographers were posting, I wasn't initially that impressed, if I'm being honest with you, with what I saw online. And a lot of that was due to the extremely unusual nature of this film, the way the colors rendered, the graininess, and it just wasn't really my cup of tea. But thanks to my friend giving me this roll and the fact that it lined up with this review I was doing on the lens, I'm kind of glad that I tried it. And as you're seeing from the stuff I'm putting up on the screen, I did get some decent results from this film. A lot of that was, in fact, thanks to the advice and information I had acquired from some other reviewers out there. One of the reviews I saw was by Kyle McDougall, and it really changed my perspective on the potential of this film. And he made a video talking about how it was better to expose a film at 100 instead of 200, and that the scanning really matters. This scanning aspect of Harman Phoenix was further reinforced by a comparison made by Carmencita Film Lab based over in Europe, who made a post initially that I saw on Instagram comparing the results from a Fujifilm Frontier scan and a Noritsu scan of the same roll of film, the same frames, and you could just see the extreme difference in results that was occurring on some of these shots. And it went further to explain why a lot of the shots that I initially saw that a lot of the other reviewers were producing weren't really optimal, to put it that way. And a lot of that is because most labs out there use a Fujifilm Frontier. Turns out the Frontier doesn't produce the best results with this film. It's much better on Noritsu, and maybe better yet when you do home digitization with the camera. So luckily I went ahead and shot my roll with all that knowledge in mind in terms of how to expose it and then how to expect the scan results to come out later. So I did shoot the roll at about 100 or 125 ISO. A lot of it was with a handheld meter, but some of it might have just been, winging it and using Sunny 16. But for the most part, I tried to be a little bit accurate with this roll. So my results with this roll of Harman Phoenix were really not that surprising compared to everything else that I'd seen and that you've probably seen by now from other people. It is quite a grainy film. It has a bit of a punchy, saturated look, and it's quite low in terms of dynamic range, so it has quite bad latitude, especially in high contrast lighting. But there are some nice shots and some good potential on there, and I think this film is a really great proof of concept for what is yet to come and what could yet come from Harman and or Ilford film. And as per other reviews, it doesn't really perform that well in any sense of harsh, sunny lighting, which is a lot of what I shot for this roll, and they probably turned out the worst on the roll. It doesn't handle bright highlights, especially when you have bright highlights and dark shadows combined in the one shot. It doesn't really cover that dynamic range, probably even worse than slide film. I'm not sure how many stops it has, but yeah, that was also my finding. So I also found that it performs much better in lower contrast or low to medium contrast scenes and, for example, overcast situations. In those conditions, it was a world of difference and where I really think this film shines. So yeah, all in all, as you've been seeing on the screen, I did have some nice shots. It has some really interesting colors. In fact, I would call them quite pleasing colors for the shots that did work out. And as per the findings from reviews like Kyle McDougall's or the information and video put out by Carmencita Film Lab, it definitely seems to do better on Noritsu scanners. I had this roll developed at Irohas Film Lab here in Melbourne, who use all Noritsu scanners for their 35mm using LS600s, and the results from the straight scans that I had from them were really nice. Like, they were quite respectable, much better than I imagined they would have been if they were scanned on a Frontier for this particular film. This is an unusual film. It doesn't have an orange mask. It's quite peculiar, And yeah, I was shown that the Noritsu seemed to handle it quite well. And those are the scans that I actually used for that entire demonstration I did for this Thypark Eureka lens. But since then, I have picked up the negatives and done a home rescan and digitized them with my digital camera and Negative Lab Pro. So between the Noritsu scans and my home scans, there isn't a drastic difference, but it's definitely there. From what I found, it was as expected. I was able to squeeze out even more range from this film, get a little bit more control over colors. Less muddiness, compression, and noise in the shadows is something that I'm going to try and show you on the screen right now. That's another finding I had with my home digitizations. And as per my usual findings with home scanning, you get sharper grain reproduction, which in the case of Harman Phoenix isn't necessarily a good thing because, as mentioned before, this film is really grainy. It's not a very nice grain, I would say. It's quite chunky and takes away from the fine detail. But yeah, at least it shows up sharper in the home macro scans. Another advantage with digitizing at home was that you get a little bit more latitude, you get better highlight detail. I'll try and zoom into some parts where there's some blown out highlights, where there's that little bit more detail on the home scans I did. But again, there's just not much in the negative. This film doesn't have very good latitude, so there wasn't really much to pull from. And as I can imagine with everything you'll be looking through right now, there's probably no surprises with my findings from this film. It does align with all the information we already have out there. I just thought I would share it anyway and give you a little bit of my thoughts because I think this is an exciting film and an exciting time right now with all the news we've been having. And at 25 Australian dollars, this is not a film that I would buy myself over anything else like a regular, Fujifilm 400 or Ultramax or something like that. I'm not the kind of person who has been shooting so much lately as to experiment as much as I used to, and I want a little bit more predictability from my film. It is fun to do it every now and then, especially if it aligns with like a lens test or something. But yeah, it's not a film that I would buy. In saying that, I am really excited and grateful for this whole Harman Phoenix situation. It is still really amazing that Harman went ahead and created this film, and it's a great, like I mentioned, proof of concept for what they will hopefully release in the future. I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited to see where this goes, how they refine it further, if they resolve some of these issues with latitude and using the current film base that they're taking from XP2. I think that might play into it, but I see huge potential in it. And if you are someone who does like the experimental nature of this, I think it's completely usable. It's still a completely usable and nice film that you can get great results from, and it's unlike anything else. So I think it is still unique and worth the money if you're someone who likes to shoot this kind of thing, but it's just not what I would go out and buy for the type of stuff that I shoot. But I still wanted to make this video, share my results, share my thoughts, because I think it's a really exciting thing. I want to get it out to more people, create that excitement, help contribute to that, because we just had the new Pentax 17 film camera announced and dropped with pre-orders not long ago. We had some updates on the Mint 35, the Rollei 35mm camera, and it just makes me feel like this coming year, or let's say 2025, for example, will be a huge year for film photography. I can see it coming with all these things combining, whatever other announcements come between now and then, that we're going to have an exciting year of film photography entering a new phase altogether, hopefully. So I think I'll maybe do a live stream about that aspect of it, of 2025, what it means for film, all these new announcements, something that is quite exciting. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed my little one-roll review on Harman Phoenix 200. Let me know your thoughts if you've shot it, any other advice you have for digitization, exposure, any samples you want to share, tag us on the Pushing Film Instagram page. Thanks for watching this one, and I'll catch you next time.